A very warm welcome to you all. Welcome to Designing Cities for All.
The two-year activity program of Pakhuis de Zwijger,
in which we take a deep dive into designing products,
places and systems for all.
At every level, we can see certain communities being marginalized, being taken advantage of, and it's all part of the design.
When you're neurodiverse, you're in a world that isn't designed for you.
We're not the only species on the planet. The city needs to be also a city for the other species.
And we need to do something because the old structures in which we worked don't work.
Things won't change just if we just let things happen.
Instead of saying, what can we do to mitigate the impacts? We need to start asking ourselves, what is causing that?
Design is political, that we need to design processes, that we are all different, but there are things that unite us.
These are the things that need to be on the table, that need to be recovered in order to redesign the society.
Everything around us was once designed and can therefore be redesigned.
How do we teach design in a way where students can be really critical of the systems of power that have informed and dominated design?
Inclusion happens by design or not at all.
I think it's always some kind of a co-creation process, and you have to make very little steps and then figure out together what works and what doesn't.
it takes as much time to do something good as it takes time to do something bad.
All design tells a story.
But there's also a bit of a need to not just write ourselves into the past, but also kind of write ourselves into the future.
I invite you so much to join my path of liberation, and I'm hopefully being welcomed by your path of liberation.
We have to heal collectively. We have to help each other understand some of these constructs that actually divide us.
Not fitting in was a blessing, or I would have turned out just like you.
Hello and welcome to you all from Pakhuis de Zwijger. Thank you for joining us tonight. Also the audiences that are watching us online and people here in the studio with us. This video that you just watched was the wrap-up of the first 2 years of Designing Cities for All. Currently, we're doing the second 2 years of Designing Cities for All, which is a 2-year-long and research activity program that takes a deep dive into designing places, products, and systems for all. So in 2023, we started with the second DCFA with the sub-theme of regeneration or regenerative design. And we do that with 6 different fellows in the span of 3 months. And currently we are doing our 4th fellow with Shibaura House, which is also for us a kind of experiment because we have done this before with people, researchers, practitioners, artists. But this time we're experimenting to see how does it turn out with doing the partnership with an institution. To give more info about regenerative design, if you haven't watched the previous DCFA programs, we try to learn more about how we can make our cities more inclusive for, with, and by everyone. And with the sub-theme of regenerative design, we wanted to focus that we want to recover and strengthen the systems for people and everything beyond human, actually. So thank you so much for joining. My name is Faiza Mohammadi, and I'm the program lead of Designing Cities for All. But tonight I'm also wearing the hat of moderator, and I will be the facilitator of this conversation with these great speakers sitting next to me and also online speakers. So to start, can I have a round of applause from you people in the studio? Thank you. Thank you, perfect. And people who are watching us online, you're very welcome. We wish you could be here, but nice that you're still joining online. So tonight marks the first episode of the new fellowship, which we call it Redesigning Connection. And of course, we're going to talk about connection with ourselves, with other humans, with non-humans, and also with our surroundings, and finally with our cities. And through this fellowship, we want to understand how we can do that, what are the innovative approaches, and what are the practical strategies to do that. So to continue with, I will just give some small words about the Shibaura House, the place, and the institution that is partnering up with DCFA in this fellowship, and then I will leave the floor in a few minutes to a very great colleague of us who is working as culture program coordinator at Shibaura House. So Shibaura House is a community hub in Tokyo and home to a lot of culture businesses. They have different activities and they're running a lot of culture projects rooted in local community. And for now, before leaving the floor to Madoka, our first guest, I would like to let you know that we would really be happy if we can include you in the conversation. So please, if you want to share a comment, share your reflections, or if you have any questions, please keep it. We will have 2 Q&A section. My colleague will come to you and you can pose your question. Also, for people who are watching us online, you can go to www.menti.com and insert the code 19466464. I'm going to repeat it once again, 19466464, and then we will receive your question here and we can also answer it. So I'm not gonna take more time, and there's no time to lose. So I will introduce our first speaker, Madoka Minamisawa, who is joining us all the way from Tokyo now. That is, if we can have Madoka from Zoom. She's joining through Zoom. And we are very grateful for our speakers from Tokyo because guess what? It's 3 a.m. there. But they were very, yeah. Hey, Madoka, can you hear us?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will leave the floor to you. Would be nice if you can introduce yourself, your background, and explain more about Shibaura House, the activities, the projects, and the fellowship that we're doing together.
Okay, so thank you so much, Faiza. I am Madoka Minamisawa from Shibaura House, and I'm joining you from Tokyo today. So a bit about myself. I have a research background in cultural studies, and I've done my research in Lithuania and figuring out how art festival can influence the memory of people within the community and how we can possibly connect them together for the future. So about Shibaura House today, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we are doing and where we are coming from and what we'd like to do through this project. So this is the building, as you can see, the transparent one. It is located in Shibaura area of Tokyo, and it's a community space. And the area is actually called Shibaura, so we wish to be a house of Shibaura area. So that's the basic concept. So Shibaura area has been landfilled for over the past 100 years, and we have land railroads and canals and high-rises recently constructed as an urbanization. So these pictures you can see, we established the company in 1952 as pre-press company, and however the printing business, as you can imagine, has declined over the time, and this is the sales revenue. So when the current CEO of Shibaura House took over the business, the revenue has already fallen out. So he needed to think of the way to alter the business model, to continue the business. And the next slide, please. So simultaneously, the Shibaura area has become a place where economic values are at the center. and efficiency is all that matters. So the next please. In this area, some residency says like people just live here and work here. So in other words, there's no place for people to connect with each other. Based on this issue, the Shibaura House decided to become a place where people can come together while continuing the existing business. So it's a complex of a park and also office building. So we asked the architect Seijima Kazuo from Sana, who's a Pritzker Prize architect, to create such building. So you can see this is the older building, and we completely altered in 2011 as a new community space, Shibaura House. So this is the space with a new philosophy of transparency and openness. So you can see this is how it is right now, and a little bit more about what we are doing as a community space. So we're opening up our space for the locals on a daily basis. So it's a community space where everyone can just come in, and children can just hang out with each other as well. So another factor we are doing is we organize some events for the neighbors. And you can see this is the photo of the cafe we have. This is run by local people. And the next photo, you can see the event organized for the local people. So we also open up our space to cultivate the local community as well. So this is the also about the public space in our neighborhood area. We are trying to think of the ways to use the public space for everyone. So this is the project with artists. And next one, please. And this is the film screening. How we were thinking of how we can use the waterfront area, just like Amsterdam, a little more people-centered. And we also organize some events with the professionals and locals, and organize citizen meetings with the professionals connecting different sectors. And this is the research. Probably we can talk about this in the next episode. We've done the research on our area and presented to the locals. The next one, please. And another factor we are doing right now is we're the place for cultural exchange. The person in the picture, her name is San Oksana. She lives in Amsterdam, and she's a co-founder of Lloyd Hotel. And her project, Cultural Embassy, greatly inspired our organization. So we put the name next to our organization, Shibaura House, right now, and we are collaborating with the Dutch Embassy in Tokyo, and we've hosted a lot of Dutch creatives to our place, as well as different countries as well. So next slide, please. So today we're here to talk about redesigning connection. We're joining Designing Cities for All as a community space. It's going to be a very experimental episode, I would guess. So the first question we have is, what we do right now as Shibaura House is all about connection, and it is essential, truly essential for everyone. And society is rapidly changing in our times. So how can we better connect with each other? So that's the first question. And the secondly, so we visited Pack House last autumn and met with the director there, and shared our ambition, like what we are doing as social hub, and how Pack House is dealing with the social issues, and creating a place for a dialogue together. And we are trying to think of the ways how we can collaborate together to tackle on numerous social issues that we're facing today. So based on those questions, we're here to talk about the connections in upcoming episodes. Firstly, about humans, and secondly, about communities and then finally about the cities. So those are the brief introductions about the episode. May I give back to you, Faiza?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for your introduction. I would say Shibaura House is like a Pak House in Amsterdam there, or the other way. Pak House is like Shibaura House here. But thank you so much. What I would like to add to what Madoka shared is that we were thinking for this fellowship to also take a deeper dive into cultural explorations, like what are other cultural activities that we can also use and practice them. And of course, with the theme of design and connection, we have brought very interesting examples tonight. But now I would like to introduce our inspiring guest sitting here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining. We have Deborah Barrow, who is the founder of Humans of Amsterdam. And she's also a freelance content creator and photographer. Later, we will welcome her to discuss more about her work in Humans of Amsterdam. We have Maaike Bartels, the professor of genetics and well-being at VU Amsterdam. And we have Herman Soshu Somsen. He is tea instructor at Urasenke's Tea School. And he's going to tell us more about the tea ceremony as the practice of connection. And of course, we have a Zoom speaker, again, all the way from Tokyo, Shokei Matsumoto, who is a monk and also the author of a book that's going to explain more about it and how it can help us for designing connection. So shall we give a warm round of applause to all of our guests that are joining us? Perfect. So no time to lose. I would like to start tonight with some questions for Maaike. Hello. A fun story is that Maaike just arrived in Amsterdam in the morning from Tokyo. How such a fun coincidence. But Maaike, you're a professor of genetics and well-being at VU Amsterdam. Can you tell us more about your work? And in your research, you talk about behavioral change that it's influenced by day-to-day interactions. Can you elaborate more on that and tell us about your research and your background?
Yes, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's lovely to be here. Yes, well, I have like my children say, you have the best job in the world because they also call me the happiness professor. But I can spend my days thinking about why some people are happier than other people. And I study that in designs where we can actually disentangle effects of genetic background, genetic predisposition from environmental influences. And one of the strong findings is that for everything that's important for a human being, there's always this genetic background in interplay with the environment. And based on that, we can draw a very important conclusion, and that's that everybody is different. Meaning that also the environment for everybody is different, and that the environmental sensitivity for everybody is different. And that's a very interesting aspect if we think about connection. So we know from other research projects that for people to feel happy and to work on their well-being, connections are very important. But because everybody's different, we can't design a one-size-fits-all approach for everything. So that's what I'm actually doing every day, sorting out why people are happier than other people.
Interesting. We also have some visuals if you wanted to explain more about them.
Yes, this is what you see, but what we tend to do in research and what you also always see in the popular media, and that's important to notice, that we always have a focus on mean levels. So, for example, we state women are happier or less happy than men, which is a useless thing because that's not the case. Some women are less happy than men, some women are happier than men. So we tend to forget that there is this difference between people. And that's what you also see in the picture, that some people say, well, if I rate my life, I give my life a 10 or a 6 or an 8 or a 5. And it's these differences that actually matter. So the average score of a population or a group of people is not that important. If we talk about well-being in cities or countries, we tend to compare countries. We always have the happiness rankings and say, well, we're on the 6th place or the 5th or the 4th. Not important because that's the Dutch average. But the Dutch average is not my number and not your number, because we are spreading all over the score from 0 to 10. So important in this diagram, this is one of the diagrams that inspires me every day, is that the majority of the people in the Netherlands, but also in many other countries, actually do pretty well. Well, if you follow the news or read a newspaper, you think it's one big drama all over the world, and that's not the case. And what we can learn from those people is, why do you feel well in such a complex society? And if we know, we can help those who suffer. So the great people, although it's not the most happy color, are the ones that feel well. The orange people are the ones we have to actually worry about, because those are invisible people that don't feel well. While the red ones are the ones that have real problems but are also helped in our social society.
Yeah, interesting. And speaking of, you mentioning that everybody is different, and also saying that there are like this invisible group among others that most of the time we tend to forget about them. It puts another focus on inclusivity and how we can design inclusive.
Yeah, I love the word inclusivity, and I think we don't do the right thing in really talking about inclusivity, because every big company, also my university, they have an inclusivity manager or a head of inclusivity or whatever, and then we design big programs. But the thing with inclusivity is that you constantly realize that you are different than I am.
True.
So we don't need a big program. We just need the realization that you are different. I don't know you, but even if I talk with a friend who I think I know well, is still different. So I can't know how that particular person feels, or what their desires are, or what they want to achieve. I can only ask them about it. Mm-hmm. And a very simple example is what we tend to do is, if we read a good book or we eat at a lovely restaurant, we say, well, this is a good book, you should read it. Which is total nonsense, because I should have said, I really like this book, give it a try. And that's a very tiny difference in how we communicate, but that's completely respecting that we are different. And that holds for everything. So we never realize it, but we should be way more inclusive in everything we do.
True. Yeah. We will come back to this. Thank you so much for now. I would like to give the floor to Shoke. Thank you so much for joining us, again, with having the big time difference. So, Shoke, you are a monk and also the author of the book A Monk's Guide to a Clean House and Mind. So would you like to give us more information about your work, about the book, and the kind of practices that you're doing?
Hi, everyone. Very nice to meet you. And I'm very glad to be here as a guest speaker. And yeah, so let me give you my brief introduction about this book and what I'm doing. So, okay, so as you see, this is a book I wrote, A Monk's Guide to a Clean House and Mind. So I think this theme resonates a lot with the theme of this event. Basically, I like cleaning. So cleaning is a very, very important part of the practice for Buddhist monks in a monastery. Actually, monks put more time into cleaning than practicing Zen meditation. So it's a very essential part of the practice. Actually, so that every single moment in our daily life could be turned into practice. So, and particularly cleaning gives us a sense of interbeingness. It means So the condition of our surroundings reflects the condition of our inner world, right? Inner mind. So in other words, if clean our surroundings, then so I come to have less distracting things, which distract me, my inner world, right? So this is the basic idea. So as a Mahayana Buddhist, I think my role is cultivating people's sense of interbeingness. So in this sense, the cleaning is a great practice that broaden our sense of interbeingness in terms of space. So, all right. So this is very brief introduction.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was exactly what we were looking for, because we will discuss things more in detail. For now, we just wanted to know more about the book and your background. Thank you so much. Now I would like to include Deborah and Herman in our conversation. And I would like to start with a question to Deborah, who is the founder of Humans of Amsterdam, that maybe some of you know it, or you may know about the Humans of New York, which the Humans of Amsterdam was also inspired by that story. But I will leave the floor to Deborah. She can explain more about her work, the research, and Humans of Amsterdam, and what's the story behind.
So yeah, I'm Deborah, and I've been a photographer since 2012. By the end of 2012, I founded Humans of Amsterdam. I was actually working in a cultural center in Tel Aviv, where I was a dialogue facilitator between Palestinians and Israelis. At the time, I was studying social work, and I was very interested in conflict resolution. And I thought, you know, what better place to learn about that than here. And what I found very interesting about those gatherings was the fact that you can actually really connect with people over personal stories. Everything in the Middle East is political. So it was really hard to find a space where things weren't political. But there were actually a lot of movements that were facilitating these gatherings through art or through writing. People would share their stories, and it was actually really empowering, because it kind of showed that you can really connect with other people, even though your labels are completely different. And that kind of showed me that there were opportunities there. And I learned a lot during that year. And while I was living there, I realized, like, I'm going back to Amsterdam. And Amsterdam, for me at the time, was quite a new city. And everyone still is, but especially then I felt everyone was living very much into their own little bubbles. We always say this is not a class society, but it actually is. And especially after leaving school, you even notice that more. So I thought, you know, I saw Humans of New York, and I discovered Humans of Tel Aviv while living there. So I thought, you know, Amsterdam should have a similar platform. And I didn't even think I was the person that should do it. I just thought someone should do that. And I started to look for a writer, started to look for a photographer. But no one was as excited about this idea as I was. So then I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to do that myself. So that's how I started. I had a little camera. I went out and I opened the platform. And that was actually the beginning of the whole project.
Yeah, very interesting. When you were talking about the conflict resolution, I was thinking, wow, that's like one of the hardest designing connections that can happen. And I think that this whole concept of redesigning the connection can be a tool for tackling the class society in a way, so that something to delve into it and then see how we can make ourselves safe against the consequences of that class society. Thank you so much for your introduction. We will come back to the storytelling part because that's actually the main idea behind it. We can also see the pictures, I guess, behind the screens. You can see that Deborah took, and of course she has published the book Humans of Amsterdam, and there you can also see all the amazing photos that she has took and the stories of people. But maybe I guess it's also nice to give a little bit of info about how you gather these stories, right? Because it's like do you go to streets and just randomly ask people, or is it like interview that you set before? How does it work?
So yeah, all these people didn't ask me to interview them.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, part of the magic is because they didn't ask for it. So I approach them, so they don't have any agenda. So that makes it like a very spontaneous sort of interaction. So I just walk the streets with my camera. I've been doing that for 11 years. And I just go around, and I go around different parts of the city. Sometimes I spend more time on the one side of the city, sometimes more on the other side. And the approach didn't really change. Maybe the questions did change. I think in the beginning it was more like small quotes, and then later on it became more like full stories. But yeah, that's the approach. It's the same.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Of course, we will come back to the storytelling and the humans of Amsterdam and the role of designing connection, the role of the storytelling in designing connection. Now, I would like to invite Herman to join us in this conversation. Welcome, please. Herman, you're a tea instructor, and you teach the Japanese tea ceremony. What does that entail? Can you tell us more about it?
Well, actually, it's something that started many centuries ago. 1500s, and there was a grand tea master that made a tea ceremony out of as a way of living, because it came from China. Monks brought the tea back to Japan, but it's actually one host, or can be a man or a woman, is inviting 3, 5, or 7 people for a full gathering. And they drink not only tea, but there's also a dinner is served twice. There is a fire made, charcoal fire, and they serve sweets. Now the idea is to reach tranquility, and they do that by the 4 principles of tea. Wake, sei, and jaku: harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. But the most important thing is that people who are in this tea gathering, which may take 4 hours, are sitting so close together. A tea room is 3 by 3 meters, so that their shoulders touch each other, and they feel the warmth of the person that is sitting next to them. And maybe that would be interesting to find if their heartbeats are synchronized. And could be. I mean, sometimes that happens, right? And I think the most thing that you can do is realize that you say that everybody is different, but in a certain way, you aren't that different. You all are maybe part of something bigger. And that's what you really experienced. So the boundaries disappear. There's no boundary between you and the others. There's no boundary between you and your environment, the tea room. There's no boundaries between you and the flowers that are being used. You feel that maybe that is all something big, and you recognize in the other what you are yourself. So that means that's only for those 4 hours. Then you go back to your busy life, of course, and the hope is that people once they experience this, will practice it and take it into their lives and feel, of course the persons are different, but there's also something that is human. There's also something that you can connect with, that, if you're just open and friendly and help and do good, then, that will come back to you. And that's often the case if you see in situations where it is a disaster, people help each other. So
True.
That's the good thing.
Thank you so much. At the point that you mentioned about we're all the same, while Micah was saying that each individual is different, I would like to bring also a question on that later. But now I want to thank you all for introducing your work, your research, your projects. And for now, I would like to open the floor for just one or two questions. I have one online question. If there is any question in the room, we can answer one. If not, later we also have a Q&A part. But going back to the online question, I guess Madoka can answer this because they directly asked a question about Shibaura House. It is, how was the Shibaura House development implemented? Was this developed together with public institutions during planning, or was this merely from a private initiative? If you can answer this in short, Madoka, would be really nice.
So Shibaura House is entirely a private entity. So it's by the company itself, not with the help of the public. But now we're collaborating with the public sector as well as part of the project.
Okay, cool. So it was built as a private sector, but you're opening the floor to public practices as well. Once again, I'm going to repeat the Menti code. It's 19464646. If you have any question, comments, or whatever you want to share, you can send it to menti.com and insert this code. Is there any question in the room that someone wants to ask? Otherwise, we can continue, and then later you can bring your question. Now, I would like to invite Shoukei again to join us and lead us through a very interesting exercise, kind of meditation exercise. I hope that you're all ready, and then I hope that you enjoy it. Shoukei, I would leave the floor to you for the next maximum 10 minutes. We're a bit behind the time, but the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So as I talked about cleaning, so my role is cultivating our sense of interbeingness. So interbeing is a very basic concept in Mahayana Buddhism. So it's very simple. Everyone is interconnected. Everything is interdependent, each other. So cleaning expands the sense of feeling of interbeingness in terms of space. But now, I want to invite all of you here to feel the sense of interbeingness in terms of time. I'd like to ask all of you this question: how can we become better ancestors for the future generation? How can we become better ancestors for the future generation? I translated a book titled Good Ancestors, written by Roman Krutznarik in English into Japanese. So I think this is a very, very profound question for all of us. So around this question, let me give you some introduction of meditation with ancestors. All right? So close your eyes or lower your gaze and imagine. First, in the center, put a small circle in your vision. It is us, the 8 billion people alive today. Then to its left, place a circle about 10 times larger. It is the people, 100 billion, who have lived in the past 50,000 years. Lastly, put the third circle to the right to center circle, about 100, even more, 1,000 times larger. It is the people, 7 trillion, who will be born in the next 50,000 years. The small circle in between the 100 billion and 7 trillion is us on this planet today. The past, the present, and the future all are interbeing in the continuity. So in this meditation, feel more connected to the 3 circles. In stillness, I first invite you to feel the connection with your ancestors. Those of you here might have received a lot, especially from your parents, grandparents, and beyond. Feel grateful for blessings they gave us. All right? Please note the ancestors who gave you the blessings were not only your family, direct ancestors. Indeed, regardless of blood relationship, all the people who lived in the past prior to us are our extended ancestors in a broader sense. Let's turn our attention to the blessings we have received from all of our big ancestors who lived in the past. We have received many wonderful things such as DNA, landscapes, languages, and technologies from countless number of unsung ancestors. Many mistakes they made are also blessings to us, since we can learn more from failures than successes. Let's feel grateful for blessings they gave us. All right, so let's turn our attention to the future. In stillness, feel the connection with the future generations, those who are not yet born. Let's give a prayer for the people to be born in the future. Thank you. So lastly, let's imagine the eyes of the future generations that will be laid on us. To them, we are the ancestors who lived in the past. In stillness, I invite you to contemplate around this question. How can we become good ancestors for the future generations to be born in the future? All right. So please open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining this brief meditation with ancestors. I hope so this experience helped you expand your realm of self in terms of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shoke. I could not personally do the full meditation. I wanted to take some notes that I want to also ask questions, but yeah, I did enjoy it, and it was interesting to see how the scope of connection can be large enough to think about our ancestors and the future generations who are not born yet. Before I ask my question and then going back to the conversation, I was curious if anyone in the room wanted to share something of, I don't know, their feelings, if they could connect anything. I mean, it was not a deep meditation because, of course, you could not focus that much. But if there's anything you want to share or you feel comfortable talking about, please do so. Otherwise, I wanted to ask this question of, like, very short. So in your opinion, as like using meditation practices to connect with ourselves, and in this example with our ancestors and future generations, is it like enough? Is it like the meditation practices are in itself helpful and enough that it design that connection that we're seeking for?
All right. So I think so. It helps cultivating our, the perspective toward other species as well as toward other existences, right? And so when it comes to meditation, it sometimes it is seen just as a very individualistic practice, separating myself from others in a space. But actually, it could be used for cultivating our, sense of collectiveness.
Interesting. Yeah, because we will also talk about like how we want to design this connection at an individual level and also like collectively together. Thank you so much. I would like go back to the examples and projects that you brought to the table, and I would like to ask you, Deborah, about storytelling. So you said that storytelling it's kind of used as a tool to design this connection. And how do you see that? How do you think that bringing the example of a random person on a street can be used as an act of fostering the connection that we are looking for, not only with ourselves, but also with others?
Well, I think in the work that I do, what it sort of says is that you're being seen. So these people, usually they're everyday, they go through life, and like most of us, like we often do not feel seen, which is very normal. But I guess just having a little moment and having a little moment of connection and then writing about that and publishing and, throwing that into the world, and that response also creates new connections as well. So it's kind of using the internet for those connections. And these are everyday faces that you normally pass by. And now you actually get a little moment to just stand still and to learn about them. So I think a lot of it is about feeling seen.
Yeah, interesting. I would like to also ask kind of a personal question. Have you ever experienced hearing a story of a person that you were like so touched or I don't know, shocked or like strong emotions? Because I guess doing it for 11 years, probably nothing would that much surprise you, but were there moments that you were like surprised in a way?
It's hard now to give an example on the spot. I do have to say, like, when you do this type of work, I used to study social work, and when you're a social worker, you learn to handle certain situations from a professional point of view. And I guess I approach this a little bit in the same way. Doesn't mean that it doesn't touch me, but I feel like I'm there with a reason. I'm there to write a story. But obviously there are situations where I do feel touched because it's real people and real emotions. I can give you an example, but it wasn't in Amsterdam. I was on a project 3 years ago in Srebrenica in Bosnia, and I was interviewing survivors of the genocide. And I do remember interviewing one man, and he was sharing his a story about how he survived a mass shooting. He was just him and his friend survived that shooting. And I remember going through that interview and kind of not really understanding how this man was still sitting in front of me, because everything was leading up to his death. And I remember like feeling extremely touched by that. And that, especially when I was writing the story, I felt as if I was writing him into his death, even though I knew he was gonna survive. Those are really difficult stories. But overall, I think I'm pretty well with handling my emotions because I know it's their story and it's not my story.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, we can still see the beautiful photos that she took. While I want to ask Maaike, so now that we discussed about these examples, practices, I would like to know more from your point of view as a researcher and probably from more of a scientific perspective, to what extent they're effective and how they're improving our well-being and how they're helping us to connect with ourselves and then with our surrounding.
Well, there are many like interventions and practices that are connected to well-being. meditation is one example of it. There are many others, but for all these things, you should realize that it should fit you. So if you are looking for well-being, and I don't want to see well-being only as the end point. I think we should see well-being as the beginning. But importantly is that I always say you have to explore. You have to search what fits you, what makes you happy, what makes you feel well. And for some that could be meditation. For others that could be yoga. For others that could be connecting to people in any other way. And well, the best thing to do for yourself is also stop doing things that don't make you happy. So we have this, we always consider our society to be very liberal in the Netherlands. I don't think we are very liberal because we have a very strong pressure on what we think should make you happy. And people tend to follow that and they keep on trying, like exercise or meditation or yoga or whatever. And it doesn't make them feel happy, but they think it should. So it actually makes them more unhappy because it doesn't make them happy while it should make them happy. So it's very important to explore what makes you happy and practice that. It's not easy. It's like practicing for a marathon. You don't run a marathon in a day. So same with well-being exercises. You have to practice and then feel if it makes you feel happy or not.
Yeah, it's kind of like they got disappointed and got stuck in a loop that you're trying to improve it, but then because it's not going in the way that you have to follow, then you're kind of also excluded.
Yeah.
So there was an online question. I was keeping it for the Q&A part, but now that you discussed and brought the concept of happiness again, maybe it's good to ask it while it's not directly connected to our conversation, but someone has asked to Micah that in research, what is the definition of happiness?
Yeah, in research we take the definition of feeling well and functioning well. It's not static. It varies over the day and it varies by context. But it's a very subjective feeling. So there is no objective measurement of happiness. You can't put people in a brain scanner and say, okay, you're happy or not. It's really asking people, how do you feel? That also means that you, of course, in research have measurement error. That also means that you need large samples. And happiness, we often use the umbrella term well-being. It actually includes happiness, satisfaction with life, but also the more eudaimonic well-being assessments like purpose and meaning in life. They are very strongly connected. So if you score high on one, you also score high on the other, most frequently. So that's how we define happiness.
Yeah, then I would say it's more like a design flaw in the research, if you accept it. It's more like using very overarching themes that not a lot of people fall under it. Thank you so much. I would like to ask Herman, going back to the practice of tea ceremony, how do you think now that we've discussed all of these practices and brought different examples, how do you see the practice of tea ceremony that brings that connection and how it connects people together? You gave one example of people sitting very close to each other, and then they may, in a silence, they may hear their heartbeat. But what other examples are there?
Well, I think that people are, most of the time when they go to study tea, they're looking for something. A lot of people are looking for something because they're not satisfied with their lives, and they expect something different, or that there is something different. So they're looking for it, and they can look in different places. They can do yoga, they can do all kinds of things. And some come to tea because they're attracted to the Japanese culture or the Japanese aesthetics. The tea ceremony is a feast for the senses, it's often said. And when sensatory experiences stop thinking, and I think it's amazing how much time and effort people spend in stopping to think, and to not think. They go to a soccer game, they read a book, they go movies, they watch their TikTok things. They're constantly trying to escape or stopping this this train of thoughts that, you know. And in tea, it is especially designed to have these sensory experiences. Because if you're thinking about why am I here in this world, and you smell a nice meal cooked with what do you call it, garlic, you're stop thinking immediately. And it's also with other things. If you have sounds, or it overrides, because it's made to keep you alive, right? As animal instinct, you have to flee, or you have to find out what is good for you. And I think that's what people always try to find. And when they're not thinking for a while, they feel relieved or at home in the world. And that is what happens with the tea ceremony. You know, you feel relieved, you feel at home in the world, and they are, a short while, they are nice and happy, and, well, I don't know happy, but they feel good. And when they leave the class, they are, most of the time, they're, you know, they forgot about their troubles, and then they go back to their lives, and then it comes back, of course. But
Well, they maybe feel in sync with themselves.
Yeah.
The most happy people are who they are. That's also part of happiness.
Yeah. They can, there's no judgment, there's no pressure, everything is just simple. And that is very helpful for people. I think in that sense, it doesn't matter that much what you do. You might enjoy ironing, or if you do cleaning in tea, there's also a lot of cleaning. And it's thought that if you clean your heart, so you're open for your guests. So that cleaning is something like a practice. You go inside of yourself in the mizuya, where you prepare everything, and then you clean yourself while you clean your utensils. And it's a very pleasant experience, because you get rid of all that clutter. And then you make tea, and you accept the people, and you feel how they are. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, interesting. I wanted, going back to the point that at the beginning of our talk, Herman, you mentioned that we're all the same at the end of the day, but while Micah was discussing that each of us are different in a lot of different senses, I want to know, is it like a more of a contradiction, or is it more like to acknowledge that while we're different, we're similar? For me, it was a bit...
Yeah, well, I think that the differences are the things that we think of. You know, I like that, I want it to become this, and the things that are more the same is I want love, I want recognition. Everybody has that same feeling. And if you see a child, you know, I want a child with red hair, or no, you don't. It's, you know, it's a baby, and you smell it, and that's, you know.
Yeah, but the thing that you are then different is that indeed we all want love, we all want connection, we all want to be seen, which is beautiful, because that's very important. But the way in which I want love and connection, and the way you want love and connection, doesn't have to be the same. And the difference is if we respect that. So if I don't expect you to expect the same as I do, that is where the difference comes in. And what we tend to do in the world is to actually put our thoughts on other people. So maybe I want to be seen, to make it very concrete, I only want to be seen by 2 people or once a week, while you want to be seen every day by 5 people. So that's where we all want the same thing, but in a different way. Yeah. And that makes us all different.
True. Shoka, you want to add something?
Yeah, because that's one of the things when I started out and I was talking to a lot of journalists, they wanted to interview me for magazines or whatever. They often would try to get some sort of a quote out of me that said, "Oh, aren't we humans all the same?" And that sort of annoyed me a lot, because, yeah, you're right, in the basics, we're all humans, and that's true. But I think it's more about accepting the differences and understanding that we do things differently, and that that's also okay, as long as we don't hurt each other, obviously. But that was one of the things that really annoyed me, and it felt like, oh, everybody's the same, but you're actually saying you all have to be sort of like me. And that sort of feels wrong. That really felt wrong to me. And also, it's not my experience interviewing people, thousands of people on the street, is that we're not the same, and that's okay.
Yeah, but that's not the thing I said, we're the same. It's what you recognize in the other, you recognize yourself. And I think you do. That's humanity. So if you have a Palestinian and you have somewhere from Israel or a Jewish person, and they sit across from each other, they are not that different. They can feel each other's pain. They can feel, and if you are able to connect to that, maybe you can overcome all these difficulties, instead of saying, well, you like this and I like that and I wanted to, you can do that too, but why not? If you can do that, and if you honestly feel that the other one is not that different from you, and you can, in most religions are like that, like love yourself or love the other like you love yourself. And that has worked a long time, and now, of course, we're beyond that, and I understand. But, yeah, it is.
It's challenging, of course, but with the case that Deborah was explaining, and then, like, conflicting situation, I guess that's also, like, something, a kind of practice, that to what extent do we want to acknowledge that we are the same? Maybe we are in a position that even acknowledging that, it's not going to let us to make the bridge that we are looking for. So it will hinder us from the connection that we want to build.
No, you emphasize the being the same. You're not the same. You're part of a bigger thing, and you're, let's put it, you're not that different. Inside your heart or your.
True, but I think, like, as a society, there's different people, different practices, and all of that. I feel like embracing all of that, that's inclusivity for me. So saying, for example, like during Eid and the end of Ramadan, schools are now considering, giving a free day. That's also just embracing that other people have different holidays, and that's different because some people might celebrate Easter or some people might celebrate Christmas, and that's also okay. That's what I meant with we're different. In the sense we have different beliefs, maybe.
Yes, of course.
But that's all okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
true.
Because basically it comes from the same kind of, search for things. And you've been brought up with the Quran, and somebody's brought up with the Bible, and somebody is,
Yeah, and these are obvious differences. They're also like differences that are much smaller, that maybe are invisible at first sight.
And I think that is more the critical thing, is that you say we all want to be loved. Yes, that's true. But how I want to be loved is different than how you want to be loved. And that is, we're often put our own feelings and thoughts on someone else and expectations, and that makes us judgmental about other people. While being totally open to the fact that someone is different gives more room for connection in the end.
I would like to continue this specific topic, but also I would like to include Shoke in our conversation, and also going back to the questions that we received online. We will continue again, but first I wanted to know if there are any questions in the room that people want to ask, or if you want to share any thoughts or comments. Otherwise, there was a question online that, Shoke, maybe you can reflect on that. Somebody asked, how do we connect with each other in a way that is larger than the life scope? I'm also exactly not sure what did they mean, but like you interpret it in any way that you feel more connected to. In a way that is larger than life. I'm not sure what larger than life means.
All right. So I think so. The intention of this question is So the life scope means my life, my own life, from birth to death. But yeah, so actually, so I can think of my life beyond my own life, right? The connecting my life with the people in the past and the people to be born in the future. So the reason I like this question so much, how can we become good ancestors for the future generation, is this question is very relevant to anyone with any religion, any ethnicity, any cultures. So everyone has one's own parents, grandparents, but it doesn't mean so the ancestor is limited to the blood relationship. We can start feeling the connection with our very close ancestors, because I often observe the people, how people behave in a graveyard. So it is interesting that even the people from other countries, from other cultures, visit the graveyard in Japan. So they give respect to the each gravestones, just a way, just like a way they give to the person, right? So we recognize, oh, okay, so there were certainly the people who lived in the past. So it's a kind of common ground we can have. So the existence of ancestors could be a common ground we can start discussion about the invisible existence, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you. I thought that you wanted to continue. Thank you so much. I understand the point that like how this connection with the past can help us to be more present, or that's how I try to perceive since you started the meditation, how we can be more mindful of the present, and how it can help us to think forward as how to make this connection with the with next generation. So going back to your question of how we can be good ancestors. There is one more question online to Herman. Maybe if you can reflect on that shortly. They asked, how can we learn more about tea ceremonies? It's okay if you want to promote Uranaska School, tea school.
Urasanka.
Absolutely. Urasanka, sorry.
Yeah, well, if you're interested, you can always contact me, and you can find us on the internet, Google us. And then we can talk about it, what you can do. Yeah.
But is it more like people can join like one-off experience, or they have to take courses, or it's
that
like
depends what they want, because people have busy lives, and not everybody is do lessons and stuff. So yeah, we can do that, whatever.
True, makes sense. I wanted to ask, one more question. To Micah, actually. So we talked also about like one time when we had the meeting. I guess there is a question in the room. Okay, I'll leave. I first will ask this question, and then we can.
Yeah, I have a question. This just came in my mind because I feel like everyone is coming from such a different background of what it means to connect. So this can be for anyone, but what do you feel is the opposite of connection, or what inhibits connection?
Judgment, I think. And that's what we do very often and very smoothly and soon. And so, yeah, I think that puts us completely apart.
Yeah, and in tea and also in Zen Buddhism, of course, tea is a Zen practice. It's said, don't judge.
Can you explain a bit more what is Zen Buddhism for people who might not know?
Oh, this is yeah, you believe that the Buddha is living in yourself, and you should do good, and then you, right? And there's a lot of rules and a lot of
different.
a long history, but that's it. Do good.
Cool.
And, yeah.
Thank you. You wanted to say something, Deborah?
Well, I was thinking it's an interesting question, actually. I think also what is a problem when you can't really connect with others is also like sort of like a blockage within yourself. So I feel that if you cannot really reach within yourself, it's really hard to connect with other people. Because to connect is in a way also to be vulnerable, I think. So.
Interesting. Thank you. Shoke, do you want to add something or?
Yeah. So I think so the structure of the question you asked is something like very symbolic way of thinking. So the binary thinking is a big reason behind creating separation. So so it's very useful to think in a binary way. So this or that, right or left, good or bad. The opposite of connection could be connection. So this is the way I answer to the question.
It was a bit of abstract response, but okay. Thank you. Okay, Vel, thank you so much for your question. If there are no more questions, I would like to kind of wrap up the conversation. We're at the end of our program. But maybe the very broad question for all of you would be, what did we learn from our conversation tonight? And of course, there was a reason that we brought speakers with completely different background to sit together, to see how different the look at the connection can be. And of course, the practice of tea ceremony and meditation exercises as a kind of culture exploration from Japanese culture. But just want to know, like, in a broad sense, what did you learn from tonight, or what was the main takeaway of tonight for each of you? Whoever wants to share.
Well, there are many takeaways. I think what I love personally is what you do is bringing people with different backgrounds together. I think that that makes us connected to each other, and us all connected to the world, because the world is actually completely filled with people with different backgrounds, interests, and expertise. So I think that is also the learning experience for ourselves again, and always be open to everybody and listen and learn.
True.
Yes, and there's of course also that all three of us are among many busy trying to understand what is going on with people and how we can, how you can be helped, or how you can connect with others in a way that is feasible. So that's also interesting that so many different fields are looking at the same kind of, I don't want to say problem, but a lot of people are kind of lonely in the new world and the new society. So, and that's why this connection is so important. And there's people that look at that and try to understand it, and that is helpful, I think.
Yeah, true. And I guess it's fair if we refer to it as a problem, I would say. Therefore, you want to share something?
I really like the perspective of the ancestors, because I think we're so tend to get caught up in little things And it's really nice sometimes just to rise above it a little bit, and also just to see how small I am. I mean, I'm living in my world, and in my world I'm big, but you know, we're all doing that. So I kind of sometimes enjoy rising above it and just realize, like, yeah, I'm just a little drop in the whole spectrum. And yeah, I like that train of thought.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. And Shuke, if you want to share something.
Yes, so I'm so impressed with the fact that now we human beings are trying to include more species other than human beings, and also more stakeholders from the past and from the future to today. So to design the next cities for future generation.
Yeah, cities for all. Yeah. But one more maybe final question is that, yeah, we discussed all of these examples, practices. Everyone shared their perspective. But what are ready to use takeaways? Like for people who are watching online, for people who will watch us back, for people who are in the studio now, what would you say is the ready to use takeaway that I would say, okay, this is the kind of a strategy / approach that I'm going to take with myself, or make this a small change that after this conversation, that was something that made a difference for me. If there was anything for you, or if you could reflect on
in
it.
general or in the
general, out of the panel, out of the conversation.
I was just like I said about how you communicate with people. So practice not to say you have to go to that restaurant because it's really good. Say just give it a try, and that with everything you do in life. That's a nice practice, and be honest to yourself all the times that you do it not in the right way, and then maybe at some point you will get it into your system.
Yeah, true. Interesting. Anything else?
Well, if you feel that you're looking for something, that your life is lacking something, or you expect that there's something else that you want to experience, and the connection to others, then just stop looking or keep looking, and find something and just do it, because you only have one life, so go about it and fight for your own life and try to improve yourself and your skills and your interpersonal ways to react to others, and it will come back to you and you will feel better, I'm sure, and just do what you have to do.
True. I hope that it's practically it will also work, because when we're talking about it, it's easy, but when it comes to practice, it's not that easy as you're encouraging people. But finger crossed. So thank you so much. We are very close to the end of tonight's program and event. I would like to reflect on some of the topics that we discussed. We of course talked about connection. The main takeaway for myself was that somehow we are thinking that even when we discuss about a lot of different connection designing / practices, is that even in this practice, a lot of people are excluded because there are somehow certain social values that we would say, okay, let's do this as connecting to ourselves, to our surrounding, while at the same time, as Micah was also explaining, some people may not find that helpful, and then they're again excluded, and then this exclusionary design, it will be reproduced again. But we also talked about like gathering. We talked about like with the interesting project of Humans of Amsterdam, is that how people and spaces can be connected. I was thinking, if someone, I'm not a Dutch person, I've been living in Amsterdam for almost 4 years. If someone would come to me on the street and ask me about the story of my life, I would feel more at home, because then it means that my story matters to someone. It doesn't matter if the person is just a random person or just a stranger, but then I would feel more connected to that space that I'm just passing by every day, as an example, as a passerby. So we tried to talk about some practices and tools. I hope that whoever will watch this program back, they can say, oh, okay, that's something that I can take for myself from now on, that I feel more connected to myself or to my surrounding. Yeah, I guess that was it. But the good thing is this fellowship with the title of Redesigning Connection is not over. We're going to have 2 more programs coming. The second one is the communities of density. Density is coined by DCFA team as the word density and city. So we're going to focus more on how we can foster the connection between different communities and cities. It's going to happen on 27th of May. It's also going to be a Monday and also live streaming. And you can also join us in the studio here. So mark your calendars if you're interested. And we will also have the 3rd program. It's titled More Than Cities. And in that program, we are going to discuss more about how beyond the human level and community level, cities can connect together. So it's going to be more from urban planning perspective in the 3rd episode. While at the same time, all of those fall under the overarching theme of connection. If you watch only one of the programs, you will follow the whole story and everything will make sense to you. And one more thing is that you can become the friend of Podcast Zwijger. We are a nonprofit organization, and if you like, you can donate as you wish. And we are open to public. Also, for watching back the program and also previous DCFA programs, you can go to dezwijger.nl, and then there you can have access to the archive of DCFA with all the previous recorded events and programs. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we can continue our conversation in the cafe. Have a nice evening, and bye.